the avenue of sphinxes that or of sphinx that connects between the Karnak and Luxor temple for a distance of almost between 2.5 up to 3 kilometers in length. And the restoration work started in 2010, but then it stopped during the revolution and it continued again once the country became stable. And every day there are new discoveries in that avenue. We will be talking about the significance of the avenue of Sphinx, what's its use, the difference between an avenue of Sphinx and an avenue of rams, because we do have an avenue of rams in front of the Karnak temple and more, and of course we have more surprises and new theories by Egyptologists as well as author and historian and member of the Historical Society, Mr. Bassam al-Shamma. Good morning, Bassam.
Good morning to you, my dear.
Good morning, Bassam. Bassam, to start with, can you tell us about the surprises that you promised to tell about the beautiful governorate of Luxor?
It's pretty interesting to put in one sentence the word new and the word history in one sentence. How can you put past and something new about the past? But this is Egypt, and Egypt is always producing to us every single weekday, whatever, new news. Luxor, or ancient Thebes if you like, Tiba if you like, Was if you like in hieroglyphs, this is the city that many people are saying it has got 2/3 of the monuments around the world. Wrong. Please stop saying that. This is very degrading of Luxor and of the Egyptian monuments. Who traveled the world and calculated every single monument and then came to Egypt and calculated every single monument and found that in Luxor there are 2/3. This, you should be some amazing traveler genius to do this, which is impossible. Number one. Number two, human beings, it is surprise number one. Human beings have lived, have dwelled at Thebes since or for at least 500,000 years. Once again, 500,000 years. Once again, 500,000 years. Who said that? Kent Weeks, famous Egyptologist, Dr. Kent Weeks, who lived in Luxor with his wife and his children for, as I can remember, over 30, 35 years. He is the responsible guy for the mapping project of Luxor, and he is the man who's responsible for reopening Tomb 5 or KV5, the sons of Ramesses II in the Valley of the Kings. The man rewrote history.
Yes,
I met him sometimes, and we worked together, and what an amazing man. And in his amazing book Luxor, he said this sentence, and since then I'm adding it to all my lectures. Human beings lived at Thebes, or have lived at Thebes, for at least 500,000 years. The first discovery of the Paleolithic tools in Africa took place in the hillsides above the Valley of the Kings in the 1850s, where they found tools since the Paleolithic era.
So would that mean that when we talk about, when we used to talk about the prehistory of Egypt and talking about how Hilwan, Maadi, Amra, Girza, Deir Tasa, all these, now Luxor is even older than them?
Can you imagine this? Your grandpas and grandmas were staying and living and forming a society at Luxor or at Thebes before it was called even Thebes or even Was, or even the hieroglyphs were invented by hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years. Number two, please stop saying we are a 7,000-year civilization, because here is another one that you are degrading. If people were preparing for civilization, making a society, forming a life, because you cannot be living like just like that in the desert. There must be a system of life, system of water, system of eating, system of hunting, and so on and so forth.
The
So-
problem, Bassem, is that they started dating and considering the historical era in Egypt with the invention of writing, not with
Yes.
the
Very wrong.
beginning of civilization. So you believe that that's wrong?
Very wrong, because I remember that was brought up some months ago, and I declared in some media this, but you cannot say that civilization starts by writing. You cannot say that, because by this you
Because
are.
maybe it's the part documented.
But we do have documentations without writing as well, my dear.
Indeed.
I mean, there are millions of ways that you
Yes.
can know if this tree rings, if this carbon 14, if this, of that, and you will pottery. We have the civilization of Ur in Iraq is studied through pottery and through dilapidated monuments. So, and by the way, unfinished monuments is more interesting than finished monuments in my book of thought.
Why?
Memphis, for example.
Yes.
We have Memphis. Go to Memphis. Go to Mitrahina. Visit Mitrahina. Come back from Mitrahina and say, why we don't have any complete statue in Memphis? Notice this.
Great point.
Always either destroyed or unfinished or check like that, or a standing statue which is unfinished. I remember I used to lecture the groups as a tour guide, and I say, check out this. You are not gonna find one statue which is complete there.
Yes.
To me, an unfinished statue is more interesting in my studies. Why?
Than a normal statue.
Because then a normal statue is
Complete.
beautiful,
Yeah.
but now I can see a complete thing, and that's it. But here, there is a pause in history. Somebody pressed pause on the video and stopped. The worker is hitting the chip that jumps off the granite, trying to form a statue. I want to know this period of time. I can see the result as a complete statue, but I want to know what steps did this sculpture took to reach that amazing project.
Yes.
And Memphis gives me that. Memphis gives me this business of here is where it starts, here is where in the middle, and then the completion of the whole project. And that takes us directly to the business that Luxor is divided by the River Nile, as we all know, to west and east.
Yes.
And people were saying that the greatest temples of Karnak, yes, plural, not the temple
Yes.
of
Yeah.
Karnak, and the connection, as thankfully you said, between it and the Luxor temple. We have more than one avenue of sphinxes, right? The one that you enter from, and all our beautiful visitors and beautiful tourists enter from, and they are going through this path of offerings, right? And that's the pylon that you are going to enter to start your first visit for the Karnak temples. On your both sides, you are going to very, very clearly notice ram-headed sphinxes. Why I say ram like this, because the ram is the symbol, the religious symbol of Iman Ra. We call him Amun Ra right nowadays. It's wrong. So Iman, the sun, the invisible. That's the meaning, the invisible. This deity, this mythological deity is the invisible. Right. And notice also that underneath the chin of the ram, there will be a statuette for Ramesses II. So for years, here is surprise number 3. For years, we were saying that these ram-headed sphinxes is for Ramesses II.
Which is not the case.
Not the case. You'll be amazed to know. You'll be at the latest study by Kent Weeks is this. These statues were at Luxor for the king Amenhotep III and Jehoiakim or Thutmoses
Yeah.
IV. Ramesses II usurped them, as usual, and took them to the Karnak and put them there. So here is surprise number 3. So avenues, long avenues, short avenues. Today, if you count them, you will find that they're around 40, right? But enter inside the first open court and you will notice more ram-headed sphinxes, but not on the same straight line, but inside. Why? Because that avenue went originally all the way to now the second pile. 124 sphinxes originally were what you today see as 40. This is the place which the new excavation didn't happen in. The second avenue of sphinxes, which you mentioned, between 2 something and 3 kilometers long, and the project of making it a walking path for visitors and tourists and Egyptians and everybody. And that's where they excavated the new Sphinx, which was not a surprise because there are more to find, as we said.
Yes.
But unfortunately, there are houses and buildings right over it. So we know where are the other Sphinxes, but we cannot do that unless you are going to make an agreement with the dwellers and give them a good enough sum of money, or give them other places to live in or to move, and that will be a discussion between the people and the government, and by this you can continue the whole 2 something or 3 kilometers long avenue Sphinxes.
Now, for the avenue itself, it's interesting because actually we have this avenue because in the back area itself we have the temple of the goddess Mut in Karnak. Karnak, as you've mentioned, is a group of temples. So the start of the temple of Luxor actually is connected all the way to the back area of the Karnak temple, where we have the temple of Mut and Khunsu. And actually each of them has an avenue of Sphinx, and then they join up together to the main one, and they're connected with a special religious festival. So would you tell us a bit about the significance and why this particular avenue was constructed from that particular direction to connect between these 2 temples, please?
Good question. Now, this is a good chance, before I answer your question, this is a good chance to tell everybody that the ancient Egyptian character is a character of fun. This is not a character of mummification all the time. The ancient Egyptians were not like waking up in the morning, let's mummify everybody. That was not the case, all right?
Yeah.
I know that this is the impression that you get from movies. Or let's erect an obelisk, or let's build a pyramid. This is great, of course, it's great. It's great achievements. But believe me, they were like yourself. You woke up, you had a headache, you took an aspirin, like that. Yes. They were humans. So they were fun people. And the reason why I'm saying that, and I'm confirming this fact, is that Jahitmes III, for example, in Karnak temples, is telling us about 54 feasts a year. You tell me, if a population is celebrating 54...
That's quite interesting. What occasions can you find to have that number of feasts?
Well, first of all, the man achieved with his amazing Egyptian army 17 great wars and victories.
Yes.
The guy did not lose one battle.
That's
so the celebration.
Yeah, so at least they had 17 victories.
Exactly.
And then we have in addition to the religious.
Exactly. Now, if you are amazed and you are like gobsmacked by the number, here is the coming number. Now, after some years came a king with the name of Ramses the third, and not the famous one, not the second one, the big one, but the third, who's in my book of thought is more important than the second, but nobody.
Why the second is the most famous?
Because in the Victorian days, in the old Victorian days, he became Ramesses the Great. Everything was Ramses.
Yeah.
Exactly like if you go to Alexandria, everything is Cleopatra.
Yeah.
And why are we not mentioning the 6 other Cleopatras? Why are we mentioning the Cleopatra, the 7th, right? So it's always like that. The name is easy. His construction's everywhere. Everywhere you go is Ramesses. You go to Turkey, it's Ramesses. You go under the sea, it's Ramesses II. You beware, the time you finish this program, Ramesses II cartouche will be on your shoulder before you leave.
Quite interesting.
Ramesses III in Medinat Habo temple, and once again, if you did not visit Habo temple in the west bank of Luxor, you did not visit temples. Yeah. As I will be saying that until the day I die, because this is one amazing temple that you have to visit. Ramesses III is telling us in this temple that Egypt celebrated 60 feasts a year. That's a good 6 more feasts than our brother Jahitmes III. So the increase of the feasts, and I guess that lived in our genes, and until today, every day
we don't
is
have 60 feasts.
Yeah, but it's every day is a feast, right? You meet anybody in the street, and it's like it's like the feast today. Yeah, so it's like in our habits. But let's go back to your question, is that what is this amazing festival that all these constructions are made to celebrate? The ancient Egyptian was a religious person, right? And the Opet or the Ipit festival or feast used to take place the 2nd month of the summer. This is pretty amazing that they excavate that Sphinx. And they told us about yesterday. And we are probably now not far away from the second month of the summer, and that is directly going to be the festival during the inundation season. So during the season of flooding and inundation, you are celebrating the beautiful festival of the Opet. This is the name of this feast in ancient Egypt, the beautiful festival of the Opet. Simply, you are taking the statue of Emin Ra from Karnak temples, and you are going to make a huge procession. The king, the high priests, people on both sides if they want to, and you are going to go all the way that 3 kilometers long procession, all the way to the Luxor temple to visit the Luxor temple, stay for a while. This is a long festival. This is not a one-day festival. It's a long festival, number of days, and that is probably the most impressive festival of the year.
Bassem will be back to continue our interesting talk here, but first we'll go for a short break, and after that we'll be back to resume our interview with Bassem Al-Shamma.